Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to my feedback video for TECHTONICA. Yes, feedback, not slash review. I'm trying to be a bit more fair to early access games. I don't think it's always fair to label something a review, knowing that they're at the start of a journey that will lead to 1.0 eventually, a year later, 2 years later, whatever it may be. That said, obviously some people really just want to hear what the game's like so they can make a decision for themselves. So hopefully I'm going to be delivering or delving into what I really think about the game and what I think it needs to be improved and what it does really well, rather than necessarily just a bog standard review. And it's kind of something I'm trying out with any new early access games that I'm going to be covering in future. But if it looks like a review, it sounds like a review, I guess it is a review. You make up your own mind. Either way, I have really enjoyed TECHTONICA. That much is clear. Over 50 hours in, been super addicted to the point where I've not actually been able to make as many guides as I normally would because I've been so lost in streaming or playing it for long periods that it become untenable to try and cut through a lot of that content afterwards. That's when I really know that I'm enjoying a game, where I just get lost for hours and hours. Maybe it's automation anyway, because I've been wanting to dive deep into one ever since Satisfactory came out, or way back when Minecraft and TechIt was around. And that's really my true inspiration for trying automation games, is that TechIt mod that I never really got a chance to play, and mainly because I'm just sucking at keyboard and mouse controls still. So any game that has me digging through and gathering resources and setting up very similar concepts or machinery to that, I am going to be down for, and TECHTONICA kind of nails it. It is going to be referenced a lot as Satisfactory's, I guess, shorter brother that lives in a cave, but I definitely think there's enough here to hold out on its own. And for a good start, it's on Games Pass on Xbox, which is a huge massive plus. That's something Satisfactory doesn't look like solving anytime soon. If you want to play a factory simulation game on Xbox, you don't really have that much choice. Now, of course, Factorio is available on Switch, but I don't think it's available on Xbox, not that I've seen anyway. And that's one of the main inspiration points for games like these, especially Satisfactory. TECHTONICA obviously has a lot of them influences on its sleeve, but I definitely think it's worth its own kind of merit. You're basically playing in a cave and you are rescuing these cubes that have like digital kind of personalities or spirits or lives kind of trapped inside them. And through these cubes, they'll be giving you a kind of story and a lot of exposition explaining stuff that's going on. I've got to say, this is probably the least enjoyable part of the game for me so far. When they pop up with something new to say about something you've discovered or just going through the story missions, they can be often long and tedious and they're kind of voice logs. I think this will improve in the future, and obviously we'll get more chance to maybe see some cinematics, I'm hoping. And even though I rate other games for their story content like Subnautica, with their attention to detail, with voice logs that you can find, even that becomes a bit tedious sometimes, just because it just is something playing in the background and sometimes you don't feel enough connected. So that's one or big part of feedback straight away. Introduce more ways to get that story in front of us. Yes, we can read notes, but it'd be great to see maybe holograms acting out certain things or ghost markers and stuff. Some way to lift the story from just being a voiceover coming or emanating from these different coloured cubes. The story, as far as I can understand it when I paid attention, was that you've woken up on this planet or asteroid that is kind of going through space on its own axis. It's had a whole group of people working here, and it seems like they've been misled a little bit about how or why they are here, mining, seemingly trying to get enough resources to fill quotas for these elevators that take the stuff up to the surface. You'd end up meeting a couple of different personalities that will bicker maybe a little bit or talk to each other, as well as give you, again, some exposition and some details about what you're encountering. But they are just a bit too long. So any way to spice that up a little bit, like I said, with either cutscenes in the future or some sort of hologram system to make things more interesting. Conan Exiles has its ghost system where you can see the spirits of the past reenacting stuff and leading you to places. I'd like to see something maybe similar. Since there is a lot of technology here, holograms seem to be the way to go. But that's, I would say, the first or maybe letdown of the game. And really, that's the most minor part of it. You're generally not playing these games for story, you're playing them to build fantastic factories with clean lines and really efficient producing items and goods. I actually think TECHTONICA's a little bit simpler than Satisfactory. I felt it was relatively easy to get to grips with, and it's tailor-made for controllers. Sure, there's a few niggles that need improving, particularly to do with moving stuff between hotbars and items in your inventory. But by far, out of so many games that have controller support added this year as new games, TECHTONICA has been one of the best in terms of like one button pressing or very quick easy shortcuts, making what seemingly usually simulation games a bit of a chore to play with controller much easier. And that is a big deal to me. Obviously, as an Xbox game, it's really important that the controls feel good. You don't want to be doing something like Space Engineer where you've got 20 different radial dials, because that game is so complicated and really should be played with a keyboard and mouse. But I haven't felt like that once while playing TECHTONICA. The controls are kind of just tailor-made, in my opinion, really good. For sure, in the future, I'd like to see more ways to customize and change up the colors of the UI and stuff. I don't think that would be too hard to do, and it would add maybe something to collect. Again, I'm going to reference a lot of games here because that's what I'm gauging feedback and ways to improve. Grounded has a scab system, basically collectibles that you can find that change the color of UI. That would be really cool, especially in a game like TECHTONICA, where a lot of your progress hinges on finding certain data pads and scannables. As you progress through the game, you'll find new resources and you'll find the remnants of ancient technology that will then allow you to go ahead and craft your technology, or the versions of it now fully working, as long as you're reaching the right tiers and producing the right resources for the main hubs that you'll come across. It's meant to encourage exploration, and if you really want to unlock the full potential of stuff and make savings on energy and speed and efficiency, then you do have to go and explore a lot of the caves far and wide. Whether you're following riverbeds or digging your way through big huge amounts of rock and tunnels to hopefully get access to new areas. I think it's aiming for that kind of Minecraft feel. Imagine being put inside a cave and then you've just got to dig out all the fabulous ores around while looking for loot. I do find it a little bit frustrating sometimes that certain upgrades really are in the back end of nowhere that you would never find unless you looked for a guide or were really attentive to the map. The game does have kind of a beacon system where you can lay your own beacons down, and it's meant to show doorways that will show you to the next objective as you go. But I guess that would be part of the feedback, is that hopefully we can craft or make some sort of new technology that will show us more of the unlockables that we've not been able to find. You'll end up seeing that on the minimap they come across as tiny little green squares sometimes. These will be boxes filled with loot, or maybe the remnants of technology that you'll have to dig through to get. It would be nice, again, something similar to Subnautica where you can scan for resources, use drones to go and actually find it, or maybe just at least highlight it on the map a lot better whenever you're looking for something. So when you see in the menu that there's an upgrade that you can't get hold of because you haven't found a scannable, it'd be great if there was some way that you could pay with either resources or some new technology to actually be able to go and find it. There are a lot of menus. Obviously you've got things like the logs and journals that keep you on track of where you've been and what you've discovered, and they are quite dense, and I would say the UI for it is pretty small in terms of what you're reading, so I'd like to see that much bigger in the future, especially the text or the ability to adjust it. Now in reality these are all pretty minor gripes. It's because the game is just so good, I'm trying to think of stuff that could really improve it. I'm fully expecting there to be brand new biomes and new areas to explore that will be very different from what we've got now. Obviously still maybe underground, and that's what sells it or sets it apart from obviously Satisfactory. Everything seemingly is going to be underground, so it's about bioluminescence and what kind of biomes you could come up with while still being in caves. There is a lot of nice colours here. They definitely need to expand though on the different types of crops and stuff that you can find and natural resources. At the moment it's a bit basic with just iron, copper, lime and maybe adamantium. I'm kind of hoping we'll go up a level in the elevator, take us to a whole brand new section of caverns, and this may be where we find desert style environments with oil and maybe things like that. And that's the potential of the game, because it focuses on you basically going up a lift to hopefully your freedom or finding the crew that long lost were there. You really could take this anywhere and do anything you wanted. I don't think they're ever going to go down the route of adding creatures. It's not a combat focused game, so I know that, and I'm not really going to request stuff that's going against the ethos. That said, something that might set it apart from other factory building games would be maybe livestock or farming creatures, some sort of aliens that you could utilise and find ways to kind of have them around inside pens, generating either electricity for you by walking on special conveyor belts on the floor, or just simply being there to, you know, maybe club over the head now and then to get a piece of meat. That may take it a bit too far in survival terms rather than simulation, so I probably doubt they'll ever add something like that. But certainly pets or creatures, that would be really cool to have. Obviously Satisfactory does have some wildlife. Again, most of it is pretty useless. Another game based in caves recently I've been enjoying is Core Keeper, and they've added a whole selection of farmyard animals and stuff, or creatures that you can kind of tame and have around just for a bit of company. I know, I've said these cubes won't shut up talking, and so that should be all the company I need. Sometimes it'd be nice to have a little companion around. Obviously you can play this with your friends, up to 4 players I do believe. There are some issues with this on Xbox. For a start, you can set up your session so players can join, but there's no notification that any players have joined. It doesn't show on the menu that their friends are in your world unless they actually just pop up in front of you. That could lead to some serious trolling in the early days. I know this will be something that I'm sure will be fixed very soon, but on Xbox right now it's got to hopefully be worked on, that you can really control who joins your world and see when they've joined your world always. But the flow of gathering resources, looking for loot, and then setting up these factories is the main point. And it's just so addicting. I don't know what it is, I don't know why. Maybe it's always that thought of just getting that next conveyor belt laid out, or finding this next resource, or getting something just organised better that always makes you want to do more and more. I really like TECHTONICA again because it is simple. I'm not the most kind of intelligent guy for playing these types of games, or logical or mathematical, but everything's fairly simple. You don't have to mess around with everything to adjust stuff. I found it satisfactory sometimes messing around with mods and stuff, and admittedly I've not played it in a while, but a lot of the productivity came from you organising or setting numbers within menus, whereas this, most of it is relatively simple. You just plonk something down, you've got faster versions of it or slightly different versions of it with i.e. inserters, and that's what really changes and mixes up what your factories are doing. I would expect there to be more complicated machinery to be added maybe in the future, and maybe that will be something down the line that I want to add different mods or different ways that you can do stuff. Obviously at the moment you've got core clustering. The amount of the blue and purple balls you've got, once you've got special unlocks, gives you more access to basically faster technology to smelt stuff quicker, drill stuff faster. Finding space for these huge trees of these balls is part and parcel of the difficulty of the game, while you're also trying to build your factories around. So I'd like technology to progress to the point where you could really make huge changes to the terrain around you, not just by increasing your drill by 6 to 9 squares, but actually having huge amounts that you can maybe use warheads to detonate and blow up massive chunks to give yourself more space, or being able to shrink down the trees and have that as a next technology run that you don't have to have them as large. They do make a nice kind of backdrop sometimes, so it's not just dark walls. That's what I would expect in terms of evolving it and getting new technologies to come in. Customization also has got to be a major factor as well. Being able to change the colour of things I think would be really cool. So having paints and stuff, either it's the floors or lights and stuff. There is that element where you can have different colour lights once you find the right upgrades. But I think you could really go ham with it and customise and change a lot of the items in the game. Making small little mini factories just to produce the right colour tint paint that you want could be something they could add. I did experience a few crashes on Xbox, but thankfully nothing was ever really lost. In terms of saves and autosaves, they happen quite frequently, so I never got a chance to get grumpy because something crashed, and it's kind of expected with a lot of early access games. As long as my data and my worlds are always there, that's the one thing I can't stand even in early access titles. For more experienced factory players, I am wondering whether or not there is enough here to keep them going. Like in Satisfactory in the early days when it first launched, it did have its own limitations. And of course now when you look at it, there's so much to do, so many ways to make things faster, quicker or better. The upgrades in this are pretty simple. Mark II equipment basically increases the speed of everything by half. As you progress down the tech tree, you'll be able to unlock some of this stuff and replace your old technology with the new. So remember I said about being able to find certain resources or scannables by using technology to home in on it more. If that can't happen, then make us or allow us to be able to get technology without having to always scan it. Like if you've reached a tier where you would normally have that technology unlocked, and then you've also got enough electricity power and you've completed everything else, then do we really have to go and find 5 scannables just to unlock that tier? Basically make there a way that players can progress without feeling like they need to explore if that's what they don't want to have to do. Maybe it can be a cost of more resources to get to them places, but it just means that you're cutting short any kind of time that you're stopping to have to go and look. I know it's kind of probably a main focus of the game. They want you to go and explore. It's going to pad out the game a bit more and lead you to exploring new story and new areas. But at the moment, quite a lot of the caves still feel pretty similar because of the limited fauna that they've got. It's pretty much all either yellow or blue and some nice pretty waterfalls. There's maybe only 1 or 2 places that I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to come back here and build this factory because it looks nice, and ultimately that's probably the least thing that people are looking at. They want space, maybe some interesting stuff on the walls like more mushrooms and lichen, maybe that could be something that gets added. It's bright, it is visually feast, but it definitely still needs more right now, and I expect to see that added in future biomes. It does come a point where you're a bit overwhelmed sometimes by all the missions and the doorways that you find, and again that's part and parcel of maybe finding it or making it easier to find certain things. You really have got to pay attention to the logs and the missions and make sure they're not all ticked on, otherwise you don't have this wall text on the left telling you you've got to fulfill or find or craft this amount of stuff. But of course the main terminal is what you should always be following if you are a bit stuck in terms of getting more upgrades and stuff. As long as that's been fulfilled, then you know you're on the right path, and I hope to see that fleshed out more, that each new area will have their own new terminal and maybe some more difficulties in either accessing it or things that we have to do to power it up. Kind of get the feeling that's on the cards with the way that you have to power up the elevator to hopefully progress. But we'd like to see that being made even more, so anything else that gets added in terms of terminals and biomes, that maybe we can carry on taking resources or power to transport from one to another that way. We've got a monorail system and it'd be great to be able to utilise it more for sure in future biomes and updates. I do think the tech tree needs a bit of work explaining what you really need. Like, yes, there's like 4 different components. Electricity, whether or not you've reached that tier with the Victor terminals, then whether or not you've got the scannables, and then of course whether or not you've got the research cores. That's quite a lot. I think that maybe some changes to the tech tree just to present it or make it look a bit easier to flow and show stuff would be interesting. Bottom line though, I've had a bunch of fun with this game. Like I said, I've sacrificed so much of my time. I've lost really track of what I've meant to have been doing in terms of guides and tutorials, so much so that I'll probably have to start a fresh playthrough rather than sit through another 20 hours of edited footage to find something small that I want to showcase. Quick wins they could maybe get added soon would be more choice in music, or being able to choose what music is playing. I know their first major update is going to be quality of life stuff happening later on this month, so I'm not expecting anything like now and right away. I do expect early access updates to take a few months to really get some of this stuff organised. The factory game I've sunk a lot of time into. It is absolutely been amazing. It's just been super addictive, super fun, lost so much time just to build in and finding ways to do things better. I just think exploration has got to be worth it in terms of the biomes and areas that you find, and it really should be other ways that you can gain access to certain things rather than just relying on scannables. I'm looking forward to covering that quality of life update with the changes that are made once it hits obviously PC, and of course I'm hoping that the speed of the updates will hit Xbox a little bit quicker. It does look like they will be a good couple of weeks in between them, but hopefully they can nail it so it happens pretty much within a few days. And things like crossplay and stuff like that I would hopefully expect to see by the time it launches in 1.0. But there we go, a bit unusual or maybe not, I don't know. It's just kind of what I'm trying to do or achieve. Not really outline and say go and buy this game or this game's trash. More just talk about what needs to be improving and what I really liked in a constructive way. Agree with me, disagree with me, let me know what you think about TECHTONICA, what you think needs to be added and what you think it does really well. And I hope to see you guys soon with more factory action. Bye bye.